Call the caucus to order. Okay, let's go. Ordinance number 3, approving the design of Carlos Martinez, eligible qualified project sponsor pursuant 15 of General Municipal Law. This is 1116 Nielsen Street. Good to go? All right, 1441 Sunset Ave. Alessandra Hernandez. Good. Calling for public hearing for 503, 505 Leah Street. Good. Ordinance approving the designation of Marcel Colado as an eligible and qualified project sponsor for 503, 50 Leah. Yep, number 2. Public hearing for the sale of 1144 Brinkerhoff. And the follow-on, number 4, 1144 Brinkerhoff. The ordinance. Okay. Calling for public hearing for 782 Elizabeth Street. And then the follow-on legislation for 782 Elizabeth Street. Assad and Maritza Hamza. Calling for public hearing for 824 Waverly. Follow-on ordinance 824, number 8. All right. All right, resolution number 11. Authorizing sale of wine and beer to Utica Zoo. This is for the Spirits on Safari fundraiser, October 22nd, 2021, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Utica Zoo. Limited parking, 1 hour parking rescinded. Councilmember McNeil, Barton Ave, north side from Sunset Ave to Genesee Street. Okay. Sponsored by Councilman DeBrango, an ordinance authorizing design and placement of the sign of Utica Municipal Golf Course. This is in regards to Hank Fergal Sr. and Hank Fergal Jr. They're going to be putting road signs up on the golf course, hole number 9, hole number 1. And this is going to be all hands?
Yeah, I want to make it full council. If everybody's, I could introduce it, but
Okay, and this is in recognition of what, 70 years, right? Full council. You got that? Okay. Number 14.
Don't forget 10:30 tomorrow, guys. You see the email?
All right, number 14, parking rules regarding hours of operation, trespassing of the Utica City Code and ordinances.
Yeah, I'd like to put this into committee.
Which
at
one?
least.
Number 14.
Ordinance number 14. I've got some questions.
That's okay. Let's put it in committee, guys.
okay.
All right, number 15, prohibiting the use of ATVs and other off-road vehicles, amending, and this is it right here, right? Is this the one we got, the amendment? You want to discuss it, anybody?
Yeah, could you explain it to us?
Yes, and I apologize, I didn't realize when it was sent down that you weren't given a redlined or changed copy, either in your memo or with a separate ordinance. The highlighted sections are what was added to the ordinance that we previously had. There was several other minor amendment changes just with the titles of certain sections, just so it could be clear, and some minor grammatical errors. But the big sections that were added is the highlighted section, which essentially provides the hearing procedure to be held by the Public Safety Commissioner and 2 other city employees. And we conduct the hearing, we determine if there was a violation, and then we determine what the sanctions will be. And the sanction is essentially still the redemption fee of the, that was previously passed in the old ordinance.
And appeal procedure, I'm assuming, right?
And an appeal procedure, and it includes notice. So we had to include all those provisions once we assumed the role of having the hearing ourselves, instead of it being within city court.
Is this procedure that is the public safety commissioner as opposed to chief police designee or something like that?
No, it's an internal procedure, so it can be whoever we designated, and would just happen to be the public safety commissioner. It's similar as if you were to have like parking tickets. We have a designated individual who
It's your
handles.
controller.
Yeah. So we have an individual who handles parking tickets. It's very similar. It's all laid out by statute.
And
Or legislation.
the 2 employees can change at random?
No, they usually get a term, 2 years or 1 year, it depends on.
Is that enumerated in this?
You got another copy, Joe.
Stephanie, this is a mechanism by which we keep it out of the courts and handle it ourselves, correct?
Correct.
They can make the decision on whether.
Instead of the courts getting the money, we get the money.
They have all that authority, right?
Yes, I
I'm
believe
not
the,
stupid, I just got questions.
so the Public Safety Commissioner and the board essentially,
What
it has to
board?
have, I'm referring to the two other members with the Public Safety Commissioner, have to issue a written decision to determine if they met their burden of proof, if they found a violation. And then the remedial measures include a redemption fee not to exceed $2,500 exclusive of the associated fees, payment of the associated fees, or forfeiture. So they have a number one of, any one of those remedies that they can take going forward. And then,
Here's my problem with when we put it invested in the Public Safety Commissioner. No secret, I've been against that. It's not separate, right? The Public Safety Commissioner is the mayor for however long, right? That's the prerogative. So to me, that's a conflict, right? The other thing is that there's nothing enumerated in this, scribed out as to the term for those two persons. And right now, it looks like, for this case, it could be the mayor, 2 people. Next case, it could be the mayor, 2 other people. You know,
It's-
right? So
it's not gonna be handled that way. It'll be a set determined people. It likely was written, and I didn't draft this specific piece of legislation, my office did, but my understanding of it is there'll be 2 set people that will be predetermined. They will serve their,
But without it being here, which is
Then we
my
should
fear.
write it in that way. We should write it in that way.
Intention, because we have been there with intention and then implementation, hence the moratorium.
correct. I think it was left open like that, so there was flexibility. So if they happen to have to fill a position, there's flexibility versus, having set terms where, a lot of times, we have a lot of boards, zoning board, planning board. If people are not in attendance, we have a lot of problems having quorum and things like that. I think the reason it was written was for that purpose.
But we have lots of ways to write that in. So we do that with our other boards. So we say you've got 2 people, they serve this term. In case of a vacancy, that it's filled in this way. I mean, we do that in lots of other cases. Why can't we do that here? Well, that's what I'd like to see written in as well. Exactly.
One's gonna be a lawyer, right? One will be a lawyer sitting there, wouldn't it? If they bring a lawyer, I mean, we would have a lawyer there as well.
But
Like-
this is city employees, so it could be,
Likely, there will be someone from our office representing. I mean, I usually attend all of the, any other agency meetings, so there'll be a representative from our
So
office.
if you amended it, it would just be, corporation counsel will be in attendance, and you just gotta have one other, right? Basically.
The person handling our tickets now.
If you guys wanted to
controller.
amend it that way, like I said, one's gonna be a lawyer. One's gonna be a lawyer.
And I can give you the background for why we're assuming the responsibility is
Yeah,
there was,
that's what I want to know.
there was a lot of issues when we implemented this with the court system where they weren't going to, they would fine the person, but they weren't going to essentially require them to forfeit the vehicle. We wanted to have that option where if they didn't want to pay the fee, the court wasn't going to implement that. So that's the reason why it was easier for us to assume the responsibility, hold the hearing ourselves, make the determination, have a number of options that we could take as far as sanctions go. And that would alleviate some of the issues because otherwise, they're just paying the fee, they're keeping their ATVs, they're still going back on the road, so.
and again, no, I love the mayor, but again, it's as much as he is on boots on the ground, he's not a public safety professional in that sense, right? So I would like to see if the commissioner of public, you don't write a law because who the mayor is the mayor, and that's how the administration has flushed out. So I'm okay with it being the commissioner of public safety because we write a law in general with the intent of it. However, I would like to see in the law that corporation counsel is appointed or somebody from the police, and somebody from the police department, that way it's here,
2
Well-
city employees. have
which
to
can be
that's-
anybody.
There's 2 city employees that have to go on this board with him. It's not just the mayor making the decision on it.
No, I'm not suggesting that, but it can be
It says
anybody.
and 2 city employees designated by the public safety commissioner. So this is a 3-member board making the decision.
But if somebody's gonna write the burden of proof, and make sure it's written correctly, I don't think just anybody can write that.
Councilman Williamson.
Put out the statement when you put the final decision. That should be written by somebody in corporation counsel.
Councilman
who
Williamson.
understands the legalese on this.
Judge Garamond would like to weigh in on this. I just wanted, he was trying to.
Corporation Council, the city of Utica
is the one who is very determinative of how they proceed, and their role should remain just the Corporation Council of the City of Utica, and they somehow are in a sort of an unbiased position. They're legal advisors, and I've read this thing through, and it gives a person a hearing. There are very few traffic citations that ever involve in any kind of hearing except a trial. This is a sort of a in-house civil trial, but the person has all the rights and protections. He's got a right to counsel. He's got a right to come there and call witness. He's got there's rights to subpoenas. There are all of those sort of things. I can't understand somewhat, and I think the Corporation Council's role is advise the administration that they follow the proper procedures and act as lawyers which they're designed to do. And I see nothing wrong with the makeup of this. I think there's just so there is no other matter I know where there's all of these protections. And that's why I had no objection to it, because if you get one of these things, I mean, you have all sorts of options to you, and I don't think it's that complicated. I think you can complicate things if you keep amending them. I looked at it and I said, well, you don't even sometimes get that in a traffic ticket, because they don't even have hearings anymore, if you know. There's no such thing as the district attorney going down to city court anymore and doing all that stuff. It's a whole new ballgame with a traffic ticket. This thing has everything that doesn't have anymore. Am I correct, Ms. DeGiorgio?
In some cases, it could be a juvenile, 15 years old.
I-
You know, then they gotta bring a parent in.
I'm
You know
rece-
what I mean? So it does.
I'm not trying to interrupt legislatively here. I keep
Yeah.
getting messages from the public that no one's using their microphones and no one can hear the council on the live stream, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Mr.
just
Moody,
when
you
we're
have a
talking,
tendency to have your microphone on. I give you that, but you have also a tendency not to talk into it.
Yeah, that's true.
But Judge, if you're gonna take somebody's motorcycle away, you're gonna take somebody's ATV away.
Well,
I mean-
I agree with you, but you've got a hearing. And let me tell you, there are laws, and if you are stopped and you are suspended license, you leave your vehicle right there and the state police tow it away. So, I mean, that's not unusual happening here. The whole idea is to protect the public against maybe uninsured and the type of vehicles that they injured. They go to the hospital, but there's not going to be any protection.
I'll just add, the built-in protection is the appeal process, so it's similar to a parking ticket. If you were to get a parking ticket, and they were to find that you parked illegally or whatever, you have the option to appeal that. Similarly, in this case, you can file within, the actual court. It's in Article 78. So if you're unhappy with the decision, you have the option.
So you
to
can
appeal.
actually take it to a legal court.
Correct.
Okay.
So there's avenues, obviously, with internally as well, that that's the appeal process. It's an article, an appeal of the decision is an article taken by the Article 78. So it's, and that's court. That goes into Supreme Court. So that'll be their remedy.
These are on for last time.
If they're unhappy with the determination by the public safety.
So,
Says it's okay, I'm on board.
so the question is now, do we go ahead and lay it on the table, or you want to put it in committee?
I'm good with it. Anybody opposed?
You want to lay it on the table?
It's not a
Okay.
local law, so you can either just put it in committee or vote on it, one or the other.
Okay,
Everybody good?
yep,
All right.
So what are we doing?
We're passing it. Okay.
all right. Okay,
Can I just
number,
make a statement? When we have these conversations about law and legislation, I understand that it is a desire to proliferate through this exponentially, but we don't have committee meetings. We don't come together, so forgive me for asking questions and things seem to take a little longer, but this is our first time talking, and the animosity, it feels like that, let's just get through this very quickly, is how we rush things and how we have to come back. So I just want to make that clear. that I'm not trying to hold up things, but the feeling that, oh, how dare they ask questions, we don't have committee meetings, but this is what happens.
That's
I would-
I didn't get that.
No, not you, Judge, not you.
I would like to say,
Because it's your district.
I-
I was there the day, and when they were driving all through the golf course onto the greens and everything else, and ripping everything apart, and they couldn't catch it. And that's what we're trying to prevent happening again.
So-
That's all.
Get-
Ms. Friend,
but
I'm
that's-
sorry.
Hang on, we need to address Councilman Williamson, as this is the caucus and he is chairing the
That's
caucus
true.
meeting.
I'm
Please.
sorry.
Mr. Williamson, can I have the floor for a moment? Thank you. I just do want to agree in general with Mr. Moody's point. I really regret that we don't have committee meetings. I think we could get a lot of good stuff done by sitting here and talking these various issues through. Much of the legislation we deal with is complicated. Some of it is not, but some of it really is. And I personally think that I would benefit from sitting in committee meetings and talking these things through without sort of looking at our watches and wondering what time the caucus meeting ends and what time we need to start the regular meeting. So I would just like in general to support Delvin's general point that committee meetings would be good.
So-
Thank you.
Mark, may I have the floor? Right.
No, I'm good.
but
I'm.
Can I have the floor
We're
for a
gonna
second?
pass it.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I agree with both of them, but the way we started doing this, we had the committee as a whole. We used to start out, when we put something in the committee, and we called a 5 o'clock meeting for the next time to have the meeting. So what's the problem?
That's what I'm saying, that's why I
I mean,
asked.
we
You
put it
want
in committee,
Or you want
so
it,
if we
you know?
put this in committee today, and I'm just using an example, we put a topic in committee, okay? So now, I think the person who wants it in committee, or the committee that it's going in, needs to take initiative and say, okay, 5 o'clock next week, schedule a meeting, and we have it. I mean, doesn't make a difference if we're doing committee as a whole, or if we had separate committees, it's a matter of having the meeting to talk about. You agree with that?
I agree.
Okay, so I don't understand, in the last 6 months, we have stuff in committees, and we don't have the meeting.
Good point.
So, it doesn't make a difference, I don't want to get into the way it's ran and this and
Well,
that.
that's-
But I mean, we put it in committee, okay, so what else do we have in committee right now? Where are,
That's-
where's the stuff that's in committee?
It's not about that as it is sometimes. I'll leave it alone. It seems like it's just a push, you know. It's like we ask questions and it's like, well, why are we asking questions? And of course, I don't want to say all of this on the air and, you know, in front of all these people, but I'm just saying the general sense is sometimes when we start asking these questions,
I
it's
agree
like,
with
you know.
And it makes, and we get topics
Yeah.
that run into, we get to the 7 o'clock time,
Well-
and we're forcing through it. So we
Well,
have
there's
the
also a
system.
couple of things. The clerk hands this stuff out early. So
Right.
we have an opportunity to
To
read
read it.
everything.
You're
You
right.
have opportunity to ask questions to certain department heads ahead of time. And just like the committee process, you have a committee of the whole, but you have people that kind of oversee. So if it's a finance thing,
Right.
Frank would chair it and bring a meeting together. If it's whatever else is in committee, whoever runs those areas, or in that situation, they will get a committee together. So whatever's been sitting in a committee are the people who kind of oversee those areas, like whatever. I mean, that's on you, it's on me and everybody else. If
Right.
it's a public safety thing, Frank would call a committee meeting ahead of time. So we all, but you know, that's what I'm saying. I mean, so there's stuff in committee, then the people that are overseeing those areas have not done what they're supposed to do if they've been sitting there for so long.
Councilman Williamson, can I have the floor for just a moment?
Sure.
Thank you. So I want to address all the points everyone just made, because there's a fine point that's going missed here. The sense of urgency was not created by eliminating the committee system that we had prior, because you still do have a committee of the whole. This council always has the committee of the whole. You could even make a motion to create ad hoc committees on the floor if you wanted to. The sense of urgency, I think, is that it was not ever really adjusted to that the legislation referral process changed. In prior councils, the way things were referred is they came through these offices and they were immediately placed in a committee such that the committee meeting could be called prior to a council meeting. So if someone put in legislation 3 weeks prior to a meeting, they could call a meeting for it tomorrow. The way your current rules of order function, the way they're written, is that legislation is always first presented in the pre-meeting conference. Now, those are the rules you chose to use. There's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but that's the new process. But because of that process, legislation is always first seen in the pre-meeting conference / committee of the whole, in accordance with the current rules of order, right? So it's not that there's a sense of urgency to pass it. I think that it's just that because it's all on the, quote, pre-conference agenda, there's this anticipation that it could be dealt with at the meeting. And if you all would like to talk through that differently and just have a different expectation that just because there's legislation on this list doesn't mean it has to be heard on the floor,
That's right.
you may adjust to your new rules in a different way. Now, that might take a little bit longer to process legislation that way, but the reality is just because it's presented in the pre-meeting conference does not mean it has to be placed on the floor. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's okay.
That's what I'm saying. So
And I don't think you were interpreted, Delvin. I was sitting here watching that. I don't think anyone interpreted you as holding it up. I read that legislation yesterday and requested the highlighted copy because it was complicated. You know what I mean? So we're just going through it. It's all good.
all right,
All right,
so
sorry about that, Mark.
goes to committee, or do we pass it?
Committee.
All right, committee's fine. We'll put it in committee, okay?
Okay, so now, when are we having a committee meeting?
That's a public.
That would be a public safety thing. There you go.
All right, 6:30.
You're in the
Outstanding.
committee. All right.
No,
Don't
we
put
got,
it in committee just to put it in.
no, we got some
You
things
know what I
going.
mean? Yeah.
Number 16.
Finish discussing it, then
All right.
I got a question on 16.
16.
Well, let me, can I know, can I go through it first?
Ask Mark. He's the one.
You're getting ahead of him.
Yeah, let me just, yeah, go ahead, Mr. George.
Just to echo what you had just said, if there are questions about pieces of legislation, specifically ones that my office sends down, I welcome questions. It's actually much easier for me to address them prior to the meeting instead of a day before or in the meeting. It's a lot easier for me to put together stuff, especially if it's not something that I've prepared, so I don't always have the answer right away. So I welcome that, so please send me an email or contact my office, especially because we're usually the ones sending stuff down. So, you know, I welcome that. I have no problem answering questions and getting stuff taken care of, so you guys are more prepared.
That's right, and I think we all have done it in our past to call department heads. All right, let's go to number 16, amending the definition of smoking in section 2-18-48-3.3, the Code of Ordinance. And this is, whereas the state of New York has enacted Marijuana Regulation and Taxation Act. I'm going to read this out because this is something new, which has, among other things, legalized the use of cannabis and related products in the state of New York. And whereas the city has authority to regulate outdoor smoking of cannabis products in the same manner that can regulate the use of tobacco products. And the definition of smoke and smoking in the Utica City ordinance should be expanded to specifically include cannabis and cannabis products. Now be it ordained that definition of smoke and smoking in section 2-18-48.3 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Utica are hereby amended to read as follows. The emission produced by the burning of a lighted cigar, cigarette pipe, electronic cigarette, vapor, or any other matter of substance which contains tobacco or cannabis is defined in section 222.00 penal law, or cannabinoid hemp as defined in section 3 of cannabis law. Smoking, the burning of lighted cigar, cigarette pipe, electronic cigarette, vapor, and other matter of substance which contains tobacco of cannabis as defined in section 222.00 penal law, cannabinoid hemp as defined in section 3 of cannabis law. The ordinance shall take place immediately upon its adoption. Councilman Lomedico.
Thank you, Councilman. This makes sense, but the only issue with this is that I think when you say tobacco, it should say tobacco/nicotine, because these vapes, there's no tobacco in them, it's pure nicotine.
Thank you.
And the marijuana end of it, it should be marijuana/THC.
Thank you.
And hemp is what you make clothes out of and rope.
Hemp is the plant, and there's lots of hemp that
Right.
doesn't have THC in it.
Right. So it should say THC or nicotine, because that's the actual chemical
That's the
that you're
chemical
ingesting
agent.
into your body and into your system. If you want it to be right. That's all I'm
If you
saying.
don't want it to be right,
You don't smoke THC.
Yes, you do. When you
It's
vape
not-
THC.
It's a chemical
No.
Different
Negative.
technology, they got all types of
Frankie,
stuff.
I'll take you for a walk
When
someday.
you
I'll
take
get
it,
you-
if you,
So you're telling me, you put THC in front of me, you can smoke it right now?
Yes, you put it in your vape and you smoke it.
It's a leaf, what is it?
No, it's generated from the marijuana plant. It's not no, it's a
Field trip,
derivative.
field trip.
It's the chemical from the marijuana
They
plant.
could put it in
that is
oils and
distilled,
all types of
and
stuff.
it's pure THC you're smoking. You're not smoking
They
marijuana.
could put in oil.
Councilman Lomatico, you just hit the nail on the head. It should probably say tobacco or cannabis derivative products.
Is everybody okay
Well,
with
it should
amending
also
that?
Following
should
them,
say,
could,
then it
like
should
something
say,
like that stuff.
then
I
it should
mean,
say, then it should say tobacco derivative, because on,
but that's what I'm saying.
on the vape, you're also smoking, you're taking in pure nicotine.
Which is the derivative of tobacco.
If you want to use derivative, you could say that,
But-
or you could say slash. Well, but you just can't say tobacco, and you just can't say marijuana, because that, or cannabis, that
So,
makes no sense
are we
whatsoever.
okay? So are we okay? Are we okay to amend it as such as Jack this amended?
Can I just ask one question on this too?
If it's a serious question.
No, it is a serious question. So, we're talking about this in the city codes for the parks. That's it?
Well,
Yeah.
Because, I mean, all what we're talking about is all legal now. I mean, you can go
you can't smoke in the
you
parks.
can't smoke in the, you know, you're not, there's a law, you
inside the
cannot.
building, but outside. You can be at Utica Coffee, because the chief told me you could sit at Utica Coffee.
Right.
And they could sit on the table and smoke
Right.
pot, they can do whatever they want.
Right.
Changing it.
Right, so that's why that's what my question is. This is, what we're talking about is strictly for the park.
I don't think you could walk into a public place, a public building and smoke.
Not in the
Anywhere you can
building,
smoke
outside.
a cigarette, you can smoke marijuana.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
So,
And I do,
So we're-
well, I'll wait till the chair.
Go
gives
ahead.
me permission.
Okay, all right, let's bring it
Yeah,
all
we can-
back in, fellas.
Yeah.
All right,
I wanna
Council-
add my name to it.
Giorgio.
I was just gonna say, I believe it's strictly directed towards the parks.
Parks,
but
okay.
Anywhere that we have a sign that says no smoking, it's to target that. So I believe there's a sign outside of our building that says no smoking right around our building, the outside of our building. Whether or not people follow that is a different story, but.
Is there a sign?
It's to
I don't know,
address.
I haven't seen it.
Couldn't see it through the smoke.
But that's what it's supposed to
Okay,
target.
so you're saying
anyone-
any place that you can't smoke cigarettes, you can't smoke this, which is fine. What's wrong with that? There's nothing wrong.
But
Yeah.
the point is, Jack's
amend it.
point is that it's not the case that people are lighting up joints anymore, marijuana cigarettes
Yeah,
for the
they're,
kids.
right.
All right, so you want to amend
It's the
it?
case that people can ingest THC in ways other than
the pens and all
marijuana
that stuff.
directly.
All right, so Jack, let's get to the get-go.
I-
What do you wanna add?
Let's amend it.
Well, we could either say, let's ask, let's ask our young lawyer. Do we say THC or do we say a marijuana derivative?
If you just give me 1 second, I'm just trying to see what it's defined in this, as the penal law, because that may provide the extra definitions you
Right,
want.
no, that's
and it's
fine.
hard.
Okay.
Just check that
All right.
and
Let's
have
get
2
to the rest
minutes.
of the legislation.
All right, let's go to 17, we'll come back, all right?
Good idea.
Can I be in charge for a minute? All right.
Number 17.
All right, authorized sale of wine and beer to Bag Square Brewing Company, LLC. This event is October 16, 2021, from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. And this is Bags, what is that? I got that, is that spelled right?
Bag Square Brewing Company?
Bagtoberfest.
Bagtoberfest. All right,
Bagstoberfest.
okay, and that's number 17. Everybody good? All right. And we still got to wait on 16.
If everybody's okay, I'd like to move what's in the committee
What?
for the lighting, the highway lighting. So we can get this out of the way.
I would like, can I say something?
Yeah.
I would like you to make mention, you did talk to the state DOT person. And I'd like you to put it on record what he said.
What, oh, yeah, I'd like to hear it.
So you guys smash them, we'll do what we could to help you.
Well, is that on record? Please, put that on record.
And I'm happy to vote for this, but
I know.
I'm happy to vote for this, but I'm gonna,
I would like you to say that this person said this because,
So here's my question on this. Again, this is getting back to the other part. So this has been in committee for how long?
Since 7/14.
Okay, so what committee was this put in?
Committee of the whole.
Okay, so who would have chaired this to talk about this? Where would that have been? Public safety?
infrastructure?
You could have just as well
no, what I'm asking is, it's been there, so here's what I'm asking. So, the difference now is this went in committee on on 7/14 or whatever day you said. We let it sit here, and all of a sudden, we're gonna bring it up and vote on it tonight. And the only thing we know different from now than 7/14 was Frankie talked to somebody from the state. So my question is, why didn't we not have a committee meeting to discuss it months ago? This
Well,
is
what-
exactly
what-
what we were talking about a little while.
Well, what we were supposed to have the DOT guy come in here and address this
You did
Okay.
say that. You did say
and
that.
that never happened.
You did say that.
Didn't you do a memo on these?
I did.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of work, we've done a lot of stuff on this.
Yes, we
Yeah.
have.
Memo on this. Did you not? I read something.
On this?
Yes.
You said something. I read it.
Yes.
Yes, and you explained what happened and the contracts and the agreement with the state and all that. You explained all that in a memo, and I read it. And it's basically, I remember you saying, that is all I said at the meeting, and you agreed that that's how the contracts work out when they're done in the initial meeting, when they're passed a long time ago. And those are contractual obligations. You keep putting it in and leaving it in committee, but you're not gonna change the contractual obligation.
Right.
The state expects you to do that which you promised to do when they did this big project.
No,
I
there was
have
a
heard
memo.
We were
nothing.
good with all
Now,
that.
now, just a minute, Mr. Beatrice, I'm
Yeah.
saying, Councilman Beatrice, I apologize.
No, don't worry.
I'm saying to you that if the dot official came here, I don't think he'd tell you much different. I don't know what he told Councilman Lomedico, but I know Mr. Giorgio did, at my request, and we do a lot of things together off camera, and I remember the memo, and I remember her describing what went on in the contractual situation. And I think that's the question you had, was there some obligation that was gonna, that you're gonna have to fulfill in relation to the grant that was granted and the work that was done. Now, Mr. Thomas is here, and I'm sure he has, I don't know if he was around when that, I'm sure he was when that was done. Do you have anything to say, Mr. Thomas, on that?
I was not involved in the drafting of the contract, so.
Okay, so it was something else, but you did look into it. I remember you did.
Your Judge,
Can,
Yes,
all right,
satisfied.
before we go, I mean, after Judge, Councilman Lomedico wants to talk, and then Ms. Giorgio. Go on.
Judge, I understand that, and I remember
Right.
what Mr. Giorgio wrote, but when you see something, there's a blatant issue, even after the contract is done, there should be a way that we could at least voice this to the state to see if they could correct it. One of those posts, I think, is less than an inch from the edge of the curb.
Jake, would you like to write a memo to them, and then we'll address it?
I think we could sit down with our corporation counsel and draft, because there's a real issue. Those are gonna get knocked down, they're right on the edge of the curb, and you're not gonna even get a snowplow through there without knocking them things over.
Let's give them,
Let's put it back in committee then, all right?
No, we can pass this, we'll give them the heads up, that, hey, listen, if these are gonna be damaged because we believe you put them too close to the thing, we'll get the DPW to sign up on it, we'll get the mayor to sign up on it, and at least we'll inform them that we feel that they're too close, the proximity of the road.
I think we should
but
do
if
that
it's already
before we pass
passed,
Mr.
why
anything.
would they
Williamson?
sign that?
Mr. Williamson, can I have the floor? What's our lever? I mean, this is exactly what
There's no
Mr.
leverage.
Beatrice, we have no leverage once we pass it. We pass it or we don't pass it, but I don't think we should pass it and then say, hey, by the way, now that we've passed it.
That was the question last time.
Go ahead, or Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, if you ask me, I think the judge put it right a couple weeks ago. It's just a decorative guardrail. It's just to protect pedestrians from, as they're walking over that bridge, there's something there, God forbid somebody pulls off the road, they're gonna stop them from hitting somebody. And that's all it looks like to me. I don't see any issue with it at all.
Can I ask a
Well, there is an issue.
Because I remember the last time. The last time was the timing of this resolution, and it was about the be it therefore resolved, and I asked a question specifically, and others chimed in about should this have preceded any action or work done, And I think we were unclear about if a council at any point approved the planning of it. Because I raised the question about, be it therefore resolved that the mayor was authorized to go into the contract. And so this seemed like a rubber stamp resolution as opposed to a resolution giving him the authority to do it. Even though it says it, right, that we give him the authority to enter into that agreement and contract, we're receiving this after the work is already done.
Correct.
So that was the question before.
Correct, and I believe as I explained in the memo, I have no power over when we get the resolution. So the resolution that was sent down to you that you guys all have is prepared by the state. We review it, but it's prepared by the state. Once we review it, we send it down. So if I got it today, I'd send it down as soon as I review it. So I don't know why it's always been the state's standard procedure that after they do the work, we get the resolutions and we prepare everything and send it down.
Because they're in charge of the road and safety during construction. They adopt that section of the road, they make sure the traffic pattern's correct. Then after that, it's our turn to re-adopt it and be responsible.
That's the crux of the whole issue there.
Correct.
The thing is finished. It took years to do this.
Correct.
And this was a design that everybody approved.
And
And the only thing I agree with Mr. Councilman Lemetico is right. The proof is in the pudding. What you're talking about and what concerns you is highly speculative. Now, if there is something that happens, and that turns out to be like the flood that happened on the brand-new highway out here north-south, we never saw water there before, and all of a sudden cars were immersed in water. So when they designed the thing, they thought it was okay. In practicality, when we had the big storm, I've never seen cars stranded on the highway in Utica ever in my life. What happened? It was a design defect. After, I think they corrected it, I'm pretty sure. And I think that in your case, that we finalize our contractual obligation. If there is a design defect, that is on the state, not us, you see. And to be speculative as to whether this
All right,
object that they designed will do that which was intended to protect the lives of the people walking on that bridge, and somebody does hit it and the person doesn't get hurt, it just does damage to a car or something, so be it. I'm
Judge,
just saying that there's some point in time where when you are a councilman, you are talking about things now that happened a long time ago. And you don't have the information sometimes is that you had back then, and some of the people here don't. I'm saying to you, there comes a time when you have to do your contractual obligation, and that's all I've ever said here. I don't think the State Department of Transportation or the state of New York is going to change the design of that now when it's just been finished, on the speculation that maybe they made a poor design.
well, Judge, what I'm getting at is that once it's done, and we recognize it looks like it is a impractical design, let's say, we should let them know that we know it. So in the event that it does happen, we can say, okay, we've already let you know this. So I think that gives us a little more credibility. And as a councilman in the city, I think it's part of our job to notice these things and to observe these things and to pass it on.
Well, I think that then the answer to that is very simple. You
lay
compose
aside.
some sort of a letter, if you
I
believe.
think I would like to
and-
see
and
us draft
If
something.
the council approves of the content of the letter, and then you send it on to the state. That's quite all right, too.
I would like that.
Well, I think that can be done.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're all good?
We're all okay, move it,
Okay, so, and we're gonna do a letter up and,
and do a letter. All right?
I'm also going to qualify my vote, but in the same general, yeah.
all right, so we got that, and let's go back to the cannabis,
And don't forget
number
that-
16.
One more thing, the local law, you guys, one more thing, we got local law there for the,
Wait a
We
minute,
also have to go back to 16.
we gotta go back to 16 before we go any further. All right?
Let me just say, I'm glad that this is coming forward. I asked about this in April, and nothing was moved on it.
What are we talking about?
About this cannabis law.
Oh, well, all right.
I'm glad that this comes.
So, Ms. Giorgio, you
Okay.
got the floor.
Okay, so just quickly, reviewing both Section 222 of the penal law and then Section 3 of cannabis law. It looks like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to do this off my phone quickly. It looks like for the definition of cannabis, it does not include hemp or cannabinoid hemp or hemp extract, but and essentially it says that's defined in Section C of the cannabis law, but then the cannabis law, Section 3 provides cannabinoid means some really long word found in hemp and does not include synthetic cannabinoids as defined in this section. Cannabinoid hemp means any hemp and any product processed or derived from hemp that's used for human consumption. So I think the definitions as it laid out between it's in Section 222 of the penal law and Section 3 of the cannabis law covers everything that you wanted to cover.
Right.
So,
The only one I would add, if you wanted to add, because those two specifically deal with cannabis, if you wanted to add the nicotine, I don't see a problem with adding that in there, but the other two, the stuff regarding cannabis is.
Well, I'd like to put nicotine.
all right, so everybody's agree with that? We can amend it before?
Anywhere after cannabis, add nicotine.
Add nicotine. You
I would,
got-
if it was just me, I'd add it right after tobacco.
Okay, we'll
All right.
follow the Corporation Council.
Any place after tobacco, add
Tobacco,
nicotine.
comma,
Yep, nicotine.
comma, or.
TH, no. Yep,
Tobacco, comma, nicotine, or cannabis, all right.
yep, okay, we good?
Yeah.
All right, so we got that. We're pulling this out.
Can I ask one quick question, Mr. Minority Leader?
Yes,
So
go ahead.
on the, there is a piece of legislation here tonight that is sponsored by Ms. McNeil, and it's the Barton Ave parking rescinding. Do you want me to do that? Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, great. That's all, thank you.
Anything else?
Local law,
We're done?
the local
Michael?
law,
Michael,
the local law.
we got a local law?
Yep.
What,
back- The moratorium on convenience stores,
Oh,
There is
oh,
it's at the
oh.
very back of your packet.
Oh,
oh, it's his meeting. I'm
I
still
don't
on
have
right.
it. Let me see. All right. I don't have it. I don't have the. Where? Oh, you got it? You got
You
a
talking
copy?
about the smoke shops? You need a copy?
The moratorium.
Mark, if you need a copy, it's right here.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah, I didn't get a copy, so.
Wait, nobody's grandfathered in.
All right, well, all right, let me pass this real quick.
Nobody's grandfathered in.
All right,
with the
all right.
Yeah, with the moratorium.
Yeah,
All right.
after the law says you can't people, it's gotta go through the law forward, you can't change that.
All right, so let me do this, and then we'll go from that point. All right. Local law sponsored by the whole Common Council. A local law established temporary moratorium on convenience stores and smoke shops in the city of Utica. And we're just laying this on the table today, correct?
Nope.
No, we're voting on it.
We're voting on it, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna vote on this bad boy tonight. Okay,
Anybody have any issues with the local law?
any issues? All right, I make a motion to secure from caucus.
6th, I'm going to call this meeting of the Common Council to order. It's 7:05. Clerk, will you please call the roll?
McNeil, Burmaster, Friend, Miola, Moody, Beatrice, Williamson, Lemetico, DeBrango, all present.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence for the deceased members of the council. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First order of business this evening is the minutes of the previous meeting.
Could I move that we waive the reading of the minutes, please, Mr. President?
We have a second from Miola. Any opposed to the waiving of the minutes? All right, they've been posted on E-Code 360 for the public to view. Thank you. We do not have any common council guests this evening. We're going to be moving right on to public hearing. We do have a public hearing. The following properties, 301 Mortimer Street and 1116 Nielsen Street. That's the same piece of legislation for $500. And 1441 Sunset Avenue for $31,500. There's no one here signed up to speak on behalf of those properties, so the public hearing is now closed. Do we have a motion to remove Ordinance 3, the sale of 301 Mortimer Street and 1116 Nielsen Street to Carlos M. Martinez for $500 from committee? Lots of motions. I'm going with Beatrice for the first, Williamson for the second. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? Okay, the sale of 301 Mortimer Street is up for a vote. Maria? Councilwoman McNeil?
Yes.
There we go. Perfect.
9 E's adopted.
All right.
Mr. President, are we gonna use the same motion to bring it to vote, so it's documented in our minutes, so we're all set? Is that okay?
What was that?
To bring it to vote, once we get out of committee, are we gonna use the same people in the motion to bring it to vote?
We could.
Would that be so kind?
Okay.
So our minutes are correct?
Well, once you pull it out of committee, it's on the floor for a vote.
Yep. Okay.
Point
All
of
right.
inquiry.
Because that's actually in committee already. It's been introduced, in other words. Yeah.
Nielsen goes to Mortimer? I have a
or-
point of inquiry.
Yes.
Mortimer and Nielsen, is it supposed to be on the same legislation? That seems kind of.
Yeah, it was sold to the same person
So
through
we can do
URA.
that?
Yeah, we've done that prior.
All right.
Actually, there was one at the last meeting that was like 9 pieces of property on the same one. Yeah. All right, do we have a motion to pull Ordinance 5 from committee? All right, Williamson. Mule is the second. Sale of 1441 Sunset Avenue to Alessandra Hernandez for $31,500. Any opposed to pulling that from committee? All right, it's on the floor for your consideration and vote. Maria?
McNeil, yes.
Thank you.
9 E's adopted.
All right. That closes the pieces for public hearing. Next order of business this evening is public comment period, and we have no one signed up for public comment period, so the public comment period is now closed. We do have communications from the mayor, so I'm going to read that now. October 6th, 2021, mayor's message to the Common Council. In the mayor's words, I wanted to take this opportunity to provide an update on the Utica Prosperity Initiative. In order to craft the Utica Prosperity Initiative, the city solicited public input to determine the community's top priorities, projects, and programs. In June, the administration announced Phase 1 projects of the Utica Prosperity Initiative, most of which are funded through the ARPA, which is American Rescue Plan Act. We will provide updates in regards to the implementation of these projects as details are finalized. After issuing a request for proposal, the city hired a law and certified public accountant firm to serve as outside third parties to help vet proposed projects and to ensure all federal guidelines and regulations are met. The administration plans on unveiling Phase 2 projects in the coming weeks. I will be sure to inform members of the Common Council of these projects. 2 items of legislation regarding city parks have been submitted by the administration for the council's consideration. The first amends the hours of operation of the parks to sunrise to sunset. This will help curtail activity in the park after dusk during the fall and winter months. The second legislative item amends/expands the definition of smoking to prohibit all forms of smoking in city parks, including cannabis. That ends the mayor's message to the council this evening. Reports from the city officers. Corporation Counsel.
Nothing to report.
All right, thank you. Deputy Chief Noonan.
Nothing to report.
All right. Commissioner Thomas?
Nothing to report.
Sounds good. Chief Ingersoll?
I'd just like to say that it's Fire Prevention Week across the nation, and the theme this year is learn the sounds of fire safety and understand what your smoke detectors try and tell you if it's going off, whether it's a low battery, whether it's an alarm. And I would just like to encourage everybody to have smoke detectors in their homes and carbon monoxide detectors. Thank you.
That all? Thank you all for your presence and participation. Do we have any cash reports? Miscellaneous communications?
No, we do not.
Other sundries. All right. Before petitions, remonstrances, and appeals, as we have at the previous meetings, I'm going to move through the properties that came down from URA, calling for motions from the council, and then we'll move on to petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. The first resolution is calling for a public hearing on the sale of 503 and 505 Leah Street to Marisol Collado for $250. Do we have a motion? We have a motion from Miola. We have a second from Friend to introduce and bring those to a vote. Your votes on Resolution 1.
Yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you very much. Ordinance 2 is the sale of 503 to 505 Leah Street to Marisol Collado for $250. Is there a motion from the floor to refer that to committee?
Motion to refer to committee, Mr. President.
All right, we're going with Miola for the motion. We're going to go with the second, Councilperson Friend. Any opposed to placing that in committee? All right, it's in committee. Resolution 3, calling for a public hearing on the sale of 1144 Brinkerhoff Avenue to Jesse and Luberta Dennis for $250. Is there a motion? We have a motion from Miola, a second from Beatrice. The public hearings on all of these properties are called for when,
What's the date?
yeah.
October 20th.
It's a great date.
Yeah, but I need you to amend this piece of legislation.
correct.
Yeah,
Yes, Mr.
that's why I was
Walker.
reading it. So, all the next ones are fine, but 1440, oh no, I'm sorry, hang on. That one's done. No, they're fine. October 20th, 2021 at 7 p.m. They all state that. I was looking at 1441 Sunset, which is what we had the public hearing for this evening. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So 1144 Brinkerhoff Avenue to Jesse and Luberta Dennis for $250. The motion was from Miola, the second.
Me?
We're going to go with Moody. Your votes?
Yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Okay. Ordinance 4 is the sale of 1144 Brinkerhoff Avenue to Jesse and Luberta Dennis for $250. Is there a motion to place that in committee?
Motion to move to committee, Mr. President.
All right. Second from Councilperson Friend. Any opposed? It's in committee. Resolution 5, calling for a public hearing on 782 Elizabeth Street to Asad Iso Hamza and Merzita Hamza for $12,000. We have a motion from Miola to introduce and move to the floor. A second from Councilperson Friend. Your votes. Maria, Councilperson? Thank you.
Yes.
There we go.
9 yeas adopted.
All right, the ordinance 6, sale of 782 Elizabeth Street to Asad Iso Hamza and Merzita Hamza for $12,000. We have a motion to place that into the committee from Moody.
Yep.
Second from Williamson. Any opposed? It's in committee. You. Resolution 7 is calling for a public hearing. The sale of 824 Waverly Place to Anthony and Antonia Lucas for $15,500. We have a motion from Miola. Second from Councilperson Friend. It's like Jeopardy. She's beating you guys to the buzzer. Your votes.
Yes. McNeil.
Thank you.
9 E's adopted.
All right, ordinance 8 is the sale of 824 Waverly Place to Anthony and Antonia Lucas for $15,500. Motion to refer to committee. Friend,
Yep.
second from Williamson. Any opposed to placing that in committee? It's in committee. All right, we're done with URE properties. Thank you. Petitions, remonstrances, and appeals. First District and Majority Leader, Maria McNeil, you do have the floor.
I'm all set this evening. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Second District, Councilman Burmaster, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. As you probably aware of, in my area over by, they call it York Heights by Edis Miller, the students have been a little unruly on the weekends. And I've already talked to Deputy Chief Ed Noonan, and we're going to see if we can sit down and talk to the college, get some residents together, and see if we can come up with a happy medium. I'll keep you kind of posted on this, and I appreciate the help from the Utica Police Department, and Deputy Chief Noonan. And at this time, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Third District, Councilperson Friend, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I actually have at least one house with a similar issue to Mr. Burmaster, so I'd like to kindly ask if Mr. Burmaster and Deputy Chief Noonan could loop me into that conversation. There's a house on Dryden Ave that has been described as a frat house. So thank you very much. I do want to remind everybody that we have a school board meeting coming up on October 19th at 7 p.m. And that's in the new administration building at 929 York Street, and I would encourage everybody in Utica to attend. And now I would like to bring to the floor ordinance number 12. This is limited parking, 1 hour parking rescinded, so we're rescinding something on Barton Ave. So ordained that section 2-16-363 Schedule H, limited parking, 1 hour parking, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. unless otherwise provided, Barton Ave, north side from Sunset to Genesee, be rescinded. And just to fill everybody in, it was actually brought to Councilmember McNeil's attention that there was a lot of problems in terms of how the parking was going and the safety of children crossing the street. The UPD did a study for us, and we also talked to a member of the security detail who works at the school, and this was what they came up with as a suggestion. So I would like to move that legislation, please.
We have a second from Miola. Your votes.
McNeil, yes.
9 E's adopted.
That's all I have, Mr. President. Thank you.
All right, President Pro Temp and Fourth Ward Councilperson Frank Miola, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move resolution number 11, calling for authorizing sale of wine and beer to the Utica Zoo. The sponsor of this event is Utica Zoo. The name of the event is Spirits on Safari Fundraiser. The date of the event is Friday, October 22nd, 2021, from 5:30 to 8 p.m. The location, of course, is the Utica Zoo. So I'm hoping everybody has the opportunity to patronize and have some fun. Be it further ordained that this permit is conditioned upon permitting, defending, minimizing, and holding harmless the city of Utica, its agent, and employees from any liability allegedly occurring as a result of the activities authorized therein, and providing liability insurance, naming the city of Utica as the insured in the amount not less than $1 million for general liability and $1 million for liquor liability. A certificate showing such insurance shall be fully forced and effective, shall be filed with the corporate council before undertaking this permitted activity. Mr. President, please call for a vote.
We just need a second. Want a second. I'm going to go with Burmaster. Your votes.
McNeil, yes.
9 E's adopted.
All right.
Mr. President, I'd like to move to committee ordinance number 14, changing park hours of operation.
Can we waive the Thursday rule for ordinances 13 through 17, please?
Motion to waive it, sir.
We have a
Second.
second from Lometico. Any opposed to waiving the Thursday rule for ordinances 13 through 17, which are reviewed in pre-meeting conference? All right, no one's opposed. It's waived the rest of the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Your motion was?
Ordinance number 14, changing park hours of operation. I would like to refer that to committee.
Okay, we have a second? All right, are we gonna put that in the Parks Committee of the Whole?
Yep.
Okay. Any opposed?
I'm not opposed, but can I briefly address this?
Parks, right?
Sure, yes,
Okay.
that's yes. Mhm.
I just, I think that we need to think really carefully about how we do this. The children of the city don't have enough places to do positive, constructive things, and I want us to very carefully consider this legislation and make sure that we're not taking away from kids who don't have enough to do one good, positive thing that they could do. So that's what I would recommend that we think about as we work through this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. In addition, I'd like to send ordinance number 15, amending ATV regulations to committee, sir.
Second?
Second.
We got a second from Williamson. Which, I guess we're gonna just do parks for that too, maybe? Since huge problem in the parks.
Sounds good.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay, 15's in committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. That'll be all for tonight. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 5th District, Councilman Moody, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. A few things in response to the parks legislation. I do agree. I am opposed to a sunset rule for the parks, and I look forward to working with my colleagues to figure out a way that we can thread the needle there for our parks. Also, too, want to talk about, last week I sent a letter to the Lieutenant Governor with regard to two things: inviting him to Utica to tour the city in partnership with, I'm sure, the other elected officials that have done that, but also sent a letter to him with regard to being consistent on the issue of gun violence. I know that it's easy to talk about those things when it's shootings, but consistency on the issue is important, and even though when it's not on the news, to continue to do that. So I sent a letter with regard to inviting him to Utica, but also to have a conversation with the city and the school district and the entire educational sector in totality. Because one of the things that we're having, and I bring it up because we're talking about the issue of parks, is that there are no places for our young people to go, or for a lot of people to go, with regard to community centers and other things. We're talking about ARPA money. There are some tremendous proposals on the table, two of which are in Cornhill, three of which really are in Cornhill. So there's a tremendous commitment from the administration and the city there. But even those projects are at least a year or 2 years out with regard to capital projects, RFPs, all of those things. I don't think that we can wait that long with trying to clean up the issue of gun violence. So I've sent a letter to him to invite him to the city, invite the school district and all of the colleges in the area. I'm sure the committee is committed to supporting them with additional security or police officers where necessary. I know that the county is committed to that as well. Seeing how we can convert these school buildings after hours into centers of community, I think would be helpful and important for maybe getting some of our young people off the street. So I sent him that letter. We'll see how that goes, and maybe in the future to work with my colleagues on the council to reiterate that point and see how we can work to do that. I know in years past that there was an education committee. I think Samantha chaired that at some point, or maybe it might have been a committee in name only, but maybe there might be something. I know the city talking to the education department has been a hot topic in the council these days. But I do think we should have a conversation about how the two can mesh together in the sense of some positive collaboration. I'm all in favor of collaboration, and if there's a way for us to work with the school district, and not just them alone, there's other institutions, the BOCES, MVCC, Utica College, other places to say, hey, what's the collaboration there? I'm all for that. So I sent the letter. Let's see how that goes with getting him to come and talk to our city and school district and schools about turning those buildings into centers of community after hours. Mr. President, I want to read into the record ordinance number 16, amending the definition of smoking in section 2-18-48(3) of the Code of Ordinances. I'll read it because there are some inclusions of nicotine. Or can I just make the inclusion, or should I read it because we included the word nicotine? Okay. Whereas the state of New York has enacted the Marijuana Regulation Taxation Act, which has, among other things, legalized the use of cannabis and related products in the state of New York, and whereas the city has the authority to regulate outdoor smoking of cannabis and cannabis products in the same manner that it can regulate the use of tobacco and nicotine products, and whereas the definition of smoke and smoking in the city, in the Utica City Ordinance should be expanded to specifically include cannabis and cannabis products. Now be it ordained that the definition of smoke and smoking in section 2-18-48.3 of the Code of Ordinance of the City of Utica are hereby amended to read as follows. Smoke, the emission produced by the burning of a lighted cigar, cigarette pipe, electronic cigarette, vapor, or any other matter or substance which contains tobacco, nicotine, or cannabis as defined in section 222.00 of the penal law, or cannabinoid, hemp as defined in section 3 of the cannabis law. Smoking, the burning of a lighted cigar, cigarette pipe, electronic cigarette, vapor, or any other matter of substance which contains tobacco, nicotine, or cannabis as defined in section 222 of the penal law, or cannabinoid, hemp as defined in section 3 of the cannabis law. Further ordained, this ordinance shall take place immediately upon adoption.
All right, so you read that into the record as you already discussed, so it doesn't need the amendment. We have a second from Miola.
And I'd like to add my name to this too, I'm sorry.
Full council, be okay with this one?
Or full council.
Councilperson McNeil, she's got a dodgy connection, so just full council, you want to be on this?
Yeah,
Okay. All right, full
yeah,
council.
I'm good.
Okay. All right, bring it to a vote. Yeah, we got the second on it. Yeah.
McNeil, yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you.
Oh, that's all legislation, but I do want to say this noise ordinance is a big problem. I get calls all the time about noise. I mean, I got a major problem on Thomas Street right now. So I don't know what can be done. I think this is one of those things like trash, or it's or feral cats is like, you darn if you do, you darn if you don't, either way. So I'm trying to figure out, and I look forward to working with Birdmaster, and all of us get calls about noise, and it's one of those things that it's not an easy fix or solution. I'm finding out that nuisance abatement issues are one of the toughest things to handle, because what do you do in reality, right? So I'm trying to figure that out. Look forward to working with you all on that. And that's all, Mr. President.
Thank you. 6th District, Councilman Joe Beatrice. You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. The only thing I want to say is I want to thank all of my colleagues who...
Is your mic on, Joe?
I'm sorry. I want to thank you. Thanks, Mr. President. I want to thank all my colleagues who attended the Meet the Candidate night last week in North Utica. It was a great turnout, and thank all of you guys for coming. Then I'd like to bring out proposed resolution number 17, authorizing sale of wine and beer to the Bag Square Brewing Company, LLC. Whereas the sale of alcoholic beverage and the possession of an open container containing alcohol beverages is prohibited on the Utica streets, sidewalks, playgrounds, parks, and right-of-way by ordinance of the Common Council, except in certain instances where permission is granted by the Common Council. Now therefore be it resolved that the permission to sell beer and wine in the exemption from provisions of section 2-15-43, subdivision C, 1, 2, and 3 regarding open containers of alcoholic beverages is granted to Bag Square Brewing Company, LLC, Bagtoberfest, Saturday, October 16th, 2021, from 12 p.m. to 12 a.m. Location of the event is Bag Square Park.
All right, do we have a second? We have a second from Miola. Your votes.
Yes, McNeil.
Thank you.
9 yeas adopted.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Council at Large Minority Leader, Mark Williamson, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. One thing I want to pass, I want to wish all the luck for all the Boilermaker runners this weekend. And I want to bring out the intro local law number 2 of 2021, Moratorium of Convenience Stores, Smoke Shops, dated 9/22/2021.
All right, this obviously does not need to be read in full, but you may summarize and just read the sections that are enacted by local law if you'd like.
Okay, so
Thanks.
therefore it be enacted by the Common Council for the City of Utica, Section 1, that the ordinance adopted on June 16, 2021 is hereby repealed and dismissed upon adoption of this local law in the manner provided by the provisions of the Municipal Home Rule Law. Section 2, pending further study of appropriate sections of the zoning law of Utica for the purpose of certain whether said zoning law should be amended to reflect the goals, needs of each district in the City of Utica to prevent character change of said residential parts of each district by the proliferation of convenience stores and smoke shops in each council-manic district. Section 3, the Commissioner of Urban and Economic Development, the Planning Board, the Zoning Board of Appeals, Department of Codes, and any other appropriate city agency shall not issue any permission or permit for the development and/or establishment of any new convenience stores, neighborhood retail stores, and/or smoke shops, regardless of current zone classifications, for a period of 6 months from the date of the adoption of this local law. Such moratorium may be extended if such study has not been completed by the end of the 6-month period.
Is there a second to take from the table? Oh, all right, you had it. So it's Councilperson Friends, the second. Your votes on local law number 2 of 2021. Councilperson McNeil?
Yes.
All right, there we
And
go.
that's all I have, Mr. President.
9
Thank-
E's adopted.
All right. Council at Large and ENA Board Member, Jack Lemetico, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, again, I'd like to thank or wish all the Boilermakers run tomorrow. Wish them luck. I've run 5 of them. Anybody here run more than 5 Boilermakers? No? No?
I think I've done 4.
Well, how many of you run?
1.
Ed, how many of you run? 8? He beat me, son of a gun. I thought I had it. All right, well, I stopped when I hit 50, and the legs just didn't go, I guess. I guess I got the lucky one. I have to bring out this legislation for my favorite highway lighting on Bagg Square in Harbor
All
Point.
right.
So, so I'm going to bring them all out. The Resolution 11, highway lighting, Bagg Square, Harbor Point. Highway lighting, ADA improvement. The Resolution 12, highway lighting, ADA improvement, Project 17. Resolution 13, highway lighting, Route 8 bridge replacement. And highway lighting, Route 5S safety project, all dated 7/14/2021.
All right, so there's a motion to pull Resolution 11, 12, 13, and 14 from committee to the floor. It's a second from Miola. These will still be voted on separately, however. Any opposed to pulling those from committee? Okay. You obviously don't need to read the whole
Right,
thing.
I'll just read
for each of
the
these.
headlines.
Yes, exactly.
All
Read the
right.
titles to make sure we're voting on the right one.
All right, the first one, number 11, resolution to maintain highway lighting for PIN. I don't know what that is. Anybody know what PIN stands for?
I believe it's project identification number.
Project identification number 2047.10, Bagg Square, Harbor Point, pedestrian way, North Genesee Street, safety improvements, City of Utica, Oneida County, New York. Be it further resolved that the clerk and the common council is hereby directed to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the State Department of Transportation, to Anthony Lamanna, Regional Director, Utility Engineer, Genesee Street, Utica, New York.
We have a second from Miola. Your votes. Maria McNeil.
Yes.
All right.
9 E's adopted.
All right, the number 12 is resolution to maintain highway lighting for PIN 2805-88, 88 Improvement Project 17, City of Utica, Oneida County. Be it further resolved that the clerk of this common council is hereby directed to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the State Department of Transportation, to Anthony Lamanna, Regional Utility Engineer, Genesee Street, Utica, New York.
Second from Miola. Your votes.
Yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Yes.
Okay. Number 13, resolution to maintain highway lighting for PIN 2056-75, Route 8 bridge replacement at at routes 5, 8, and 12 interchange, City of Utica, New York, Oneida County. Be it further resolved that the clerk of this common council is hereby directed to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the State Department of Transportation to Anthony Lamanna, Regional Utility Engineer, Genesee Street, Utica, New York.
Moody had the second on that one, actually. Sorry, gotcha. Yeah. Your votes. All right.
You need like one of those orange, I hate them.
Be fun with just like a clicker, you know?
All right, and proposed resolution number 14,
Yeah, they just.
resolution to maintain highway lighting for PIN 2805-.32, Route 5S Safety Project, City of Utica, Oneida County. Be it further resolved that the clerk of this common council is hereby directed to transmit 5 certified copies of the foregoing resolution to the State Department of Transportation to Antina Lamanna, Regional Utility Engineer, Genesee Street, Utica, New York. And that is it.
All right, we got a second from DeBrango.
Mr. President, I'd like to qualify my vote when we're done.
All right, so we got.
On the first one, I think on the first one you want to qualify.
Council- Wait, hold on. I'm going to give Councilperson Friend the floor, and then you would like the floor after?
No, I'm just letting her know, the one you want to, you should have done it on the first one.
Oh, well, regardless, so they're all similar. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I'm happy to vote yes on these. We've been back and forth with this. The Corporation Council has explained to us that we essentially bound ourselves to do this at the time at which we approved the design. But there are concerns that Mr. Lemetico has brought to our attention about the possibility of these low lights getting knocked out by snowplows, and we will, in the meantime, have taken full responsibility for them. So I just want to sort of qualify that I do have reservations. I am voting yes, but I'm not looking forward to when we have to explain to our residents that they have to pay to have these lights repaired that were designed in such a way that we could easily predict that they would get knocked out by a snowplow. Thank you very much, Mr.
I concur with Councilman Friend.
All right. Can you, you need to pull the lever, however, both of you actually.
Look,
Councilman
we're too busy
Burmaster
talking.
and Councilperson, there we go. McNeil already voted yes, so call it. Yep.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you. Anything else this evening, Councilman Lemetico?
That is it, thank you.
All right, Councilman DeBrango, you have the floor. Council at Large DeBrango, I should say.
Very large.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. President. First and foremost, I gotta wish a happy birthday to my son Frank Jr. He's not actually Junior, it's Frank J. DeBrango. And he's 37 years old today, so happy birthday, son, if you're watching. Fire Prevention Week, I know the chief mentioned it earlier. You know, I think it's great that the fire department gets involved. They go around, educate the kids in school, you know, all the safety precautions, all the safety procedures that you could use. You know, God forbid there is a fire in your home and try to prevent it from happening. So I think it's great. They have a great program. They do a puppet show. They have Sparky. They have all the good stuff where the kids would really pay attention to, you know, what's going on. So that's a great thing, and I'm proud to have shared over the years. I actually dressed up as Sparky once, okay, but don't laugh. But it was a great time to educating these kids. So I did want to commend North Utica and South Utica when they had to meet the candidates nights the last couple of Mondays, and I think it went well. I think it was both organizers ran it well. It was a great meeting. There was a lot of great questions. The candidates had a chance to answer all of the questions that were presented to us, and I think it went well. I think our next meeting up will be East Utica, so we're looking forward to that as well. I am going to introduce ordinance number 13. It's supposed to be a secret. Hopefully Hank is, or somebody won't inform him on this, but it goes out to Henry Fergal and his family at the Valley View Golf Course, and we're going to do something at 10:30 tomorrow morning for present him with erect a sign in his honor and his family's honor. So I will read the legislation, and I would like to have it full committee. I know my name is on it, but everybody, full council, I should say. So I want everybody involved in this. Okay, here we go. We already waived the Thursday rule, so proposed ordinance number 13. An ordinance authorizing the design and placement of a sign at Utica's municipal golf course, acknowledging the 70 years of service as the golf professionals at Valley View by Henry Fergal Sr. and Henry Hank Fergal Jr. I'm going way back now. Whereas in 1954, Edward J. Fergal stunned the world of golf when he defeated Gene Littler by one stroke to win the prestigious United States Golf Association Open Championship. Edward was Henry Fergal Sr.'s brother and Hank Jr.'s uncle. There was also a third brother named Ted Fergal, and they all played in PGA tournaments in the late 40s and early 50s. Henry Fergal Sr. became the golf professional at Valley View Municipal Golf Course. He continued in that position until succeeded by his son, Henry Hank Fergal Jr. in 1974. On or about August 9, 2009, an interview was published in an article in the Observer-Dispatch to mark the celebration of Henry Hank Fergal Jr.'s 35 years of service as the golf professional at Valley View. The article began by mentioning that his uncle Edward won the 1954 U.S. Open and that another of his uncle, Ted, was also a pro. The article went on to describe what one does as a golf pro. He stated that his father, Hank Sr., and his uncles, Edward and Ted, were all PGA professionals, so it's natural that he loves what he's doing. In the article of August 2009, Hank Fergal Jr. described briefly how he, along with manager of the golf course, in effect ran the golf course. And what was not mentioned in the article is interesting background of Henry Hank Fergal Jr., who succeeded his father in 1974. At age 15, Henry Jr. was the youngest player to compete in the finals of the City Amateur Championship. He also, at age 15, represented Utica in the annual Junior Chamber of Commerce tournament held in Amsterdam, New York. And while at Proctor High School, he led Proctor to their only Section 3 golf championship for 3 years, 1962, 1963, and 1964. Throughout the years, Henry Hank Fergal Jr. participated along with other Valley View golfers in what were known as Monday PGA events. He also organized and processed all of the golf tournaments and special golf events held at Valley View. He is well known throughout the state as a golfer and a golf course professional. A golf professional is necessary and a vital position at any golf course and that wants to entertain tournaments. In some instances, certain tournaments are not sanctioned by the United States Golf Association and therefore would have to be scheduled elsewhere. Pro golfers, semi-pro golfers, and other persons who hold the same title as Hank Fergal Jr. have and do play at Valley View on occasion. In Utica, we have an experienced and recognized golf professional at Valley View for 70 years with Henry Fergal Sr. and Henry Hank Fergal Jr. Now therefore be it ordained that the Common Council of the City of Utica authorizes the design and placement of a sign at Valley View Golf Course at a place to be determined to honor Henry Fergal Sr. and Hank Fergal Jr. for their dedication to the citizens of Utica and many golfers who have enjoyed a unique and beautiful golf course that can be measured alongside any municipal golf course in the state of New York. Be it further ordained that a dedication of the tribute will occur on October 7th, 2021 at 10:30 a.m. at Valley View Golf Course. Before I end it, everybody is invited, obviously the council and whoever wants to show up, but I can't thank, I want to thank Mike Sermonaro. He did mention this a while back to me. I'd like to do something in honor of Hank, and I took the ball and ran with it, and I talked to the council members. I actually ran it by the chairman of the golf committee, Ron Wargel. I ran it by the mayor of the city of Utica, and everybody seems to be on board with it, and I think it's well-deserved, the position that he was in, as well as his dad. Also, I want to thank Joe and Ralph Leo for giving us some of this information that we would have never known. So they actually were golfing buddies way back at Proctor High School, and they actually played on the same team, the golf team together. And also Judge Garamo for assisting me in putting this legislation together. With that said, I'd like
Councilman
second on
Lemetico is
this.
the second on this, and it's up for a vote.
McNeil, yes.
9 yeas adopted.
Thank you.
That'll be all, Mr. President.
Go through your papers if you want, but I have everything turned over here.
We did the burn one.
All right. I want to address the council with something. Won't take that long. So over the past year or two, the issue of green technology and electric cars, et cetera, has come up multiple times. So I just wanted to say something about that. In general, for the department heads, the administration, the council members, and any members of the public who are pushing those technologies. First, I'd like to just start by saying, technologically, we've come very far. In the 40s and 50s, if there was a creepy gray obelisk with what looks like frog eyes with a council person talking out of it, someone would think that this was a sci-fi movie. So, there's an insane amount of advancements that we make in the engineering community every day. And those advancements, sometimes, when they're first made, they're great, they're novel, but they aren't necessarily the total solution. I will get to the electric car part of this, but I do want to reference something that did happen a little over a decade ago. Everyone here probably remembers the rage where we all had to convert to fluorescent light bulbs, okay? It was federally mandated, state mandated in different areas, and there was a huge push and a lot of money and a lot of incentives went into converting every single light bulb in this country to fluorescence. In California, they actually banned incandescence. What happened there is the government backed the wrong horse, but because they put so much money behind it, we filled all of our landfills with mercury. A couple years later, we ended up with LED light bulbs, right? Phenomenal. Extremely clean, extremely efficient, and maybe some of the wafers for those will be made up in Marcy. But that brings me to the business of electric cars, which I think are great. And just before I get into this, I just want to, there's all this talk about experts, et cetera. A little bit of my background is a degree in optics from the University of Rochester. That degree is composed of concentrations of physics, modern physics, mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, and math. So on this subject, professionally, I am regarded in a lot of spaces as one of the, quote, experts who could comment on this. So there's two things. One, I do think vehicles that are powered by electric motors do have a future in this country. But I do want us to think as we move forward and take pause around the current vehicles that are out there. I do think they are serving an extremely valuable purpose to advance different modes of transportation, and specific to places like New York City and or Los Angeles, electric vehicles solve a very novel problem. They take the emissions and the energy consumed to move someone from point A to point B, and they take it out of that municipal area and reduce things like smog. So right now, using battery-powered electric vehicles, specifically lithium-ion battery-powered electric vehicles, makes perfect sense in a place like LA, and it solved a really, really terrible problem. But I'm bringing this back to the city business here. We are proposing to purchase electric vehicles. Now, I'm not saying we shouldn't try some, okay? But what I would like us to think about is the fact that, one, the maintenance on electric vehicles, while there is a lot of pop culture around the fact that the maintenance is less, especially in areas where there is salt like this, we still do have to maintain things such as brakes, wheel bearings, etc. And in some cases with electric vehicles, that becomes even more maintenance involved. If we are going to move to electric vehicles, we do have to look further into how much those are going to cost to maintain. And the second thing, what I talked about the government backing the wrong horse. Lithium-ion batteries are extremely poor for the environment to manufacture. We have them all on our phones. It's the best thing we've got right now. But there are different technologies such as solid-state batteries, which are being researched right now. And also, as much as some people want to see fossil fuels and other alternative fuels completely go away, hybrid vehicles are typically the most efficient way, as demonstrated by locomotives for many years now, to move something from point A to point B. So I just wanted to put all this out there so people would read about this and think about it. I'm not saying don't go buy a Tesla. I'm not saying don't purchase an electric vehicle, but you do have to read into it. And going back to the batteries, I just want to harp on this one more time. 7 years from now, we'll have a crisis we're not planning for right now. We're strip mining for lithium. Places like Afghanistan, for example, are basically the new oil well of lithium. Okay, so it's going to tie into that type of politics as well. And we don't currently have a mechanism or a program to figure out what we're going to do to recycle all those batteries. So I just wanted to put that out there because we keep talking about buying electric vehicles, and it's more to think about than just plugging it in and making sure nothing comes out of tailpipe. That's all I've got. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Motion to close, Mr. President.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Come on, boss.